On This Week in Enterprise Tech, CES, Erogotron, Sit Stand, The Uprising. Twiet on the set.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for This Week in Enterprise Tech is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This is Twiet, This Week in Enterprise Tech, Episode 25, recorded January 14, 2013. The Uprising. This episode of Twiet is brought to you by RingCentral. We do everything in the cloud. That's why I love my cloud-based phone system by RingCentral. Zero startup costs, and RingCentral is $20 per month per user. Try it now with a 30-day risk-free trial and buy one desk phone and get a second phone free, up to 20 phones. Call 800-543-9980 or visit ringcentral.com and use our promo code TWIT. Hey, you've stumbled into Twiet This Week in Enterprise Tech. It's the show dedicated to the enterprise professional, the IT pro, and the geek who just wants to know how it's all connected. I'm your host, Father Robert Balasaire, the Digital Jesuit, your guide to all things in the enterprise. And joining our trek are some, well, a few old faces and one brand new one, starting with Mr. Brian Chi, the evangelist for ThinLinks and the director of the Advanced Network Computing Laboratory in Hawaii, currently coming to us in 8-bit. Brian, how you doing?
It's Lego Man.
Now,
yeah, there's definitely an internet occurrence going on. I'm my network monitoring is kind of going bananas right now.
Yeah, I think there's some sort of internet event that is, well, it's making Twiet a little painful. But that's okay. Hopefully it'll clear up. And speaking of clearing up, there's nothing that brings blue skies to me more than when the next guest is on Twiet, Mr. Curtis Franklin. Curtis, we just got back from CES, did we not?
We did indeed, where we saw tons of gadgets, got lots of great information, and had some mighty fine crustaceans. That's right.
So, they're not sponsoring us today, but I do have to say, if you're ever in Vegas, you have to go to Hot and Juicy Crawfish on Spring Mountain Road. It's an experience. Now, we're going to the real experience of the show. That is my super, super special guest. We've been dying to have her on, and so I'm so glad that she was able to finally join us. Miss Wendy McCubbin from Erogotron. Where are you coming to us from?
This would be from Erogotron showroom, right in our headquarters in Minneapolis, frigid north, Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Yeah, so we've really got this, we've got the country.
You can see behind me.
Oh yeah,
Go ahead.
We've got some showroom pieces going on there, but we have Curtis over in the East Coast, we've got you in the Midwest, I'm on the West Coast, and Cheebert's in Hawaii. So I'm pretty sure we've got the country covered.
I think I'd rather be in Hawaii.
Hawaii. Now, are you going to keep rotating your position like that? Because that's you're cheating. You're cheating, I think.
I'm good.
Okay.
We're done.
No, that's fine. That's fine. All right, let's get right into it, and that is all four of us were at CES, and I would be remiss if I did not take this opportunity just to have a little chat about things that we saw. It doesn't have to be enterprise-based, but what were some of the cool toys, services, gizmos, gadgets, or gimmicks that we all saw at CES? Cheebert, I'm going to start with you.
Well, I tell you, I've been looking for a 3D printer. Being able to custom fab brackets and all kinds of goofy things is a really big deal. And right now, getting them custom machine costs me a king's ransom. So I want to give a shout out to the folks over at Formlabs. I believe they got started in Kickstarter. Thank you. And what makes it really unique from a lot of the other ones is that it's got a vat of resin, and there's a UV laser underneath that actually scans around and hardens it, and it actually starts pulling the 3D image up from the bottom up. So it actually has a little crane that lifts it up. The amount of resolution you can get off that is just stunning. We're looking at 25 microns of resolution, which is almost 5 times the resolution of a lot of the other ones that you have that are plastic extrusion. It's a really cool system. It is approximately 3,900 or thereabouts. And because the resin just drips back into the tank, it's very efficient. So it's pretty neat, and I'm wondering if I can actually find a grant to pay for it.
You know, that was one of the very first fast prototyping machines that I ever saw. That's the first methodology, using that UV laser to solidify polymers. But you know, we saw an explosion of maker-type bots, and I know that's a brand name, but I'm gonna call them all maker bots at the Innovation Pavilion at the what's that? The Venetian. In fact, for the very first time, I saw a machine under $1,000. I think it was 3DPD333. They got to work on their name, but they had a machine for $800 that used a single spool and could lay down fast prototype devices that were pretty high quality. Curtis, you saw a few of these with Cheever, right?
That's right. I did see them, and like Cheever, I was very impressed with the Formlabs people, but I was also impressed just by the sheer number of devices out there. You know, I keep hearing the debate on whether 3D printing is going to be a big deal or whether it's going to remain just a niche product for the hardcore makers. To be honest, I think it's probably going to come in somewhere between. You've got the hardcore makers who are going to get better and better and better at it because the tools are getting better and they're able to get more experience. But as the very basic printers, the ones that are down there in the 50 to 75 micron resolution, become much cheaper, I think what we're going to start to see are the same sort of families who have been buying all of the Lego robotic kits for their kids are going to start buying the 3D printers for their kids. And that just is going to unleash a lot of creativity and bring a lot of these young makers into the field. And I'm really excited about that.
Right. You know, one of the movements that I saw this last year was many of these companies are now positioning themselves not as fast prototype machine distributors, but they just want it to be known as these are maker machines. You know, this is not something that you would create in order to create something else, but these are the machines you will actually use to make things that you actually use around the house, around an office, around a business. That's actually kind of exciting. Now, I want to skip to Wendy. Wendy, I know a lot of your experience was limited to the Erogotron booth because you were working, but did you find any cool things at CES you want to share?
Well, you're right. I didn't get a lot of opportunity to walk around, but what I was really encouraged by, obviously, our mantra, as we'll talk about in the show today, is getting more movement into our sedentary work routines. So I was super encouraged by the number of fitness and health apps that are being produced today, not only to encourage us to move more, to reduce sedentary time, but tracking blood pressure, tracking glucose levels, all of that from our smartphones, media tablets, and all of that. So I'm super encouraged by the direction technology is taking to allow us to take a little bit more control of our health.
Yeah. Actually, we did see a large crop of devices, everything from the Happy Fork, which is the haptic fork, the fork that vibrates if you're eating too quickly, to a lot of different bands that measured everything from a heartbeat to the oxygen level to the amount of sunlight you're getting. So, yeah, I think that's definitely a trend. Hopefully, we'll see it continue. Curtis, what's on your list of naughty and nice CES?
Well, I have to agree that one of the things that impressed me were all of the personal record-keeping things. I think we're going to end up having a debate over what the right amount of attention to your details are. You know, how often should you weigh yourself? Forget every day. Should you be weighing yourself hourly and charting that? Should you be keeping track of your blood pressure hourly? Because that's the sort of thing that will become possible through a lot of these products. A bigger thing, though, is the use of the smartphone as a platform. If you still think of a smartphone as something that's just for making phone calls or even making phone calls and texting, you're way behind the curve. We saw lots of products for really serious content creation, whether it be things that allowed you to use your tablet as your office, things for very serious video and audio production, or a combination of all those. These small devices are now being utilized for not only the processing power and the networking power, but to take advantage of their input and output capabilities. I mean, this is really exciting, and I think that this CES, we saw the beginning, but not nearly the end of that kind of trend.
For me, if I could switch to my product shot here, I've got a couple of gadgets and gizmos. These are sort of the best that came in my swag bag. And I think, Jason, you've got a picture of my swag bag there. I brought home a lot of gadgets and gizmos from CES. It's kind of, Cheever knows this. When I'm at CES, I don't go by the name of Padre or Father Robert. I actually have a badge that says PRYZE WHOR. It's, you know, it's kind of what I do. But out of all these things, if we could switch back to my product shot, I think this is my favorite just because I've been waiting so long for this. This is, believe it or not, this is a hydrogen fuel cell. This is from MyFC. This is a company that has been manufacturing or trying to design these things for the last year. This is a little canister of, I think it's sodium polysilicate. It's got some poly name. This is just water. And believe it or not, the water is the fuel. When it mixes with the crystalline substance inside this canister, see, it actually squirts out a little bit of water. Oh, now, great, now I'm wet. And, well, then it releases hydrogen into this fuel cell. This fuel cell will run for 4 hours and will charge your iPhone, it will charge your media device, it will charge your lights, it will charge your GPS emergency beacon. And the cool thing, I think this is one of the things I really like about this device is, unlike a lot of other fuel cells on the market, it doesn't waste the chemistry. And what I mean by that is, usually when you start the reaction inside of one of these fuel cell canisters, you waste power because you can't stop the reaction once you started it. So all that excess hydrogen that's not being used to create power to charge your devices just gets wasted. It gets turned into heat. This actually has a battery built up top so that you can charge the battery with your excess power. So this is a device that's designed to be, you know, for the outdoorsman, for someone who's really off the grid, someone who doesn't have access to solar or a consistent supply of batteries, or
the person whom you're trying to reach.
Or the person who you're trying to reach. But it's really designed, I mean, I think, for the go bag, for the apocalypse bag, because you can take these canisters, they have an indefinite shelf life, have it in a go bag for 20 years, and when you finally do need it, they're as fresh as the day that you bought it. So I'm a big fan of fuel cells, you know, just that's kind of me. Let's move on. This next story is, well, I bring it up on Twiat because it is very worrisome for anyone who follows enterprise tech, the ramifications of which are huge. CBS has been having this ongoing spat with Dish over the HAPA, and that's that service that allows you to time shift, play shift. It's a DVR. Well, because they were having this spat with Dish, which was a finalist in CNET's Best of CES competition, was then banned from being a finalist. So CBS came down to CNET, which is one of its news subsidiaries, and said you cannot include coverage for any product of any company with which we have active litigation. This is troublesome. This is really troublesome because you're now breaking down the wall of journalistic integrity, and you're basically saying other forces will influence how you can either rate something, how you can talk about something, or how you report on something. I want to throw this to Chibert and Curtis because it affects the two of you directly. You are professional journalists. How does this strike you? Either of you, let's start with you, Curtis.
Well, I will say that it is easy to sit here and say that I know what I would have done, but I do know that I have worn the top editorial hat at a publication. And there are certain lines that you don't cross. If you are a journalism organization, then the corporate parents must leave their hands off. And CBS's legal department crossed a line. Now, this is not something, if they had come down and said, you can't do this because we cannot defend you from libel, in this case, this is libelous and you're going to lose it. That's one thing. That's what you pay the legal department for. That's not this case. They did it for the company's own benefit. And I'm afraid that, you know, had I been one of the top editors there, I would have been forced to tender my resignation. You cannot allow that. And you're right. This sort of reinforces the stereotype that is wrong in most cases, but is out there, that the journalism of an organization is under the command of the business people. It shouldn't be. In most cases, it's not. But this is indeed a bad precedent. I'm very saddened for all of my professional peers over at CNET.
Yeah, and that's, I think, what's most saddening about this, which is I don't know if CBS realizes what they've done. You're absolutely right in saying that there's so much pressure, especially with trolls in the chat room, that comes in the form of, oh, you're only saying this because you have X as an advertiser, or you're only reviewing it and giving it that score because you are so in the pocket of Y. Well, we've always been able to come back and say, no, there's separation here. The advertising wing has nothing to do with the journalistic wing. The reviews are done independently. The reviews are done truthfully. But this throws a cannonball through that wall and says, no, corporate was able to reach down and directly affect the result of a review. Essentially say, Dish will no longer be given this award that what they were due. Curtis, how do you recover from something like this?
It's tough. Trust is really the product that a journalist sells. That's the only thing we have. We create a contract, an implied contract with our reader or our listener that says that I will tell you a story that is based on facts, and facts that I'm bringing you because it's in your best interest. And CNET has been forced by their corporate parent to break that contract. It will take a long time, I think, to re-earn that trust. And unfortunately, it's a dissolution of trust that spreads. There are a lot of people who will look at what happened with CBS and CNET and apply that same broad brushstroke to the people at ZDNet, at IDG, at UBM, at everyone who's in this technology journalism part of the world. And it hurts us all.
Yeah. Chibert, I want to throw this over to you. There's already been one editor, as Arbiter in the chat room pointed out, who has resigned over this kerfuffle, Greg Sandoval, who has basically said, look, I can't do this. If I'm supposed to be writing honestly and truthfully, I cannot be part of an organization that allowed itself to be bullied by corporate. Now, you do shootouts. I mean, you're directly affected by this because you compare equipment. What would happen if there was even a hint of, say, oh, Chibert accepted a payment from Cisco to give them a better score, or Chibert didn't give SonicWall the negative press it deserved because he's such good friends with them? That kills you and your work, yes?
Oh, yeah. This is all about reputation. If I don't do an honest review, I'm done. And I might as well just go back and do whatever. You know, InfoWorld has had a long-standing policy. We call it separation of church and state, which I think is kind of funny considering you're a priest. And we are actually not allowed to even know what ads are scheduled at the magazine. We have actually gone as far as putting that in writing, signed by our editor-in-chief for large corporations that have been worried about this. We're also the one of the few large magazines that do reviews that we never, ever, ever allow pay-to-play. We've actually fired people over that. We've actually had someone that was long, long ago in a different publication was reviewing some product and then sent it back, and it had never even been opened, and he had given them a negative review. That's the kiss of death. He got tossed very, very quickly. So honesty in journalism is a very, very big deal, especially with the larger magazines. And I think that's what really makes the difference between some of the small, large, because we actually will not take a review written by a corporation. It must be reviewed by a neutral third party.
Right, right. All right, that story's depressing enough, so I want to move on. We're going to keep an eye on it because it affects all of our work. If we are under the suspicion of pay to play, if people think that we're not reviewing things honestly, and we're not giving them the honest truth about the gear that we bring into the show and about the technologies that we speak about, that kind of destroys everything. It brings down the brick house. Let's leave it at that. One last bit from the Enterprise Byte, and that was the stop at NVIDIA's booth. We actually did do this for Twit coverage. Fantastic piece of technology that essentially leveraged the power within a rack of GPUs in order to provide streaming gaming over the internet. Chibert, I want to throw this to you because your work specifically deals with with the use of GPUs, right? With thin links, you're leveraging that sort of power to do the same operations over and over again and give a decent experience online.
Yeah, it's actually a little different. The whole concept of VDI that I deal with is leveraging a GPU in the server to provide the rendering over a high-speed bus and then deliver the 2D image to the remote thin client. Now, at the university, we also do GPU processing for science. And in fact, one of the things that someone's looking at trying to get money for is a desk-side Cray. And the desk-side Cray literally has a whole passel of Tesla cards in there. You know, I think it's running something like 7,000 or 8,000 GPU cores. And that's going to be used for science. In fact, this one's going to be used for weather modeling.
Curtis, in your work and looking at the stories that you've covered at Enterprise Efficiency, this is essentially virtual infrastructure here, but we're talking about leveraging the use of the GPU rather than the CPU. In your mind, what's the major difference? What is this going to allow that the traditional server farm didn't?
Well, I think that the key here is the fact that it is leveraging the GPU. Traditional server farms are great at doing the back-end processing if you have something that's just significantly compute bound. Where we've had a problem is in moving the mass quantities of data over the net. And I think what this does, by having NVIDIA technology on both ends of this, you're able to split the processing, and essentially you're doing double the processing by splitting it up with only half the data transfer required. You are trying to most carefully use your resource of greatest scarcity. And for most people, that's still the network bandwidth. Take advantage of the truly killer horsepower that exists in the GPUs that are available both in the remote clients and on the back end. Send only the material that's necessary, and you end up with better response, better graphics, and a better experience for everyone in gaming. You know, it's interesting. There are ways in which this expands on what, say, Citrix was doing a decade ago. It's just taking it to another dimension in terms of capability and complexity.
Well, I think what we're talking about now is the next step for the cloud, the next step in building up that virtual infrastructure. But you know what one of the current steps is? That's right, it's moving all of your services into the cloud where you can have them actively all the time, 24/7, in a way that's just, let's call it geektastic. Of course, I'm talking about our sponsor, RingCentral. When we built the studio, we decided to do everything in the cloud. Our documents are stored in the cloud. We do all of our scheduling in the cloud. We do as much as possible through services that are hosted in the cloud because we believe in the technology. We believe where it's going to take Twit. So when Russell, our IT guy, told us that we could have our phone system in the cloud rather than having it here in the brick house with wires and terminals everywhere, well, we jumped at the chance. RingCentral allows us to have everything that we would have on a PBX, but we don't have to have a PBX box down in the basement. We don't have to drill holes in the floor. We don't have to worry about bringing out a technician every single time we want to make a major change to our phone system. It's on the web. It's in the cloud. It's really that simple. RingCentral allows us to customize all of our call handling, and our producers love getting their voicemail and their email. We can even get our fax messages right on our smartphones. It's that simple. Now, RingCentral offers all-inclusive pricing as low as $20 per month per user. You can start right now with a 30-day risk-free trial, and they have a special offer for my listeners. When you buy one desk phone, you get a second phone free, up to 20 phones. So call this number, designated for my listeners, 800-543-9999. 800-543-9980. That's 800-543-9980. Again, one more time, 800-543-9980. Or you can also go to ringcentral.com and use the promo code TWIT. We thank RingCentral for their support of This Week in Enterprise Tech. Now, I want to go to a video because it's going to explain a lot about the following case study. This was a review that I did for my gadget show a while back. Erogotron no longer makes this product in this configuration, but I think it speaks a lot about the manufacturing of these devices and what they can do.
Welcome to Gadget at thetechstop.net, the place where it's always time to get your geek on. I'm Father Robert Ballecer. I'm a Catholic priest in the Jesuits, a religious order of the Catholic Church. And in this episode, I'm taking a look at the Erogotron WorkFit C LCD and laptop combo. The WorkFit C LCD and laptop combo is part of Erogotron's line of sit-stand workstations. It gives users a solid mobile workstation cart capable of mounting a laptop and LCD monitor side by side on a platform that can be easily raised or lowered for sit-stand operation. The WorkFit LCD and laptop combo is designed to hold LCD monitors as large as 20 inches wide and up to 26 pounds of laptop and monitor weight combined. The LCD monitor and laptop are mounted on a crossbar that has 5 inches of travel and a main column that can move up and down 20 inches, giving you 25 inches in which to find your sweet spot. The WorkFit line of carts isn't just fancy furniture that makes it easier to use your tech. Erogotron's awareness website, juststand.org, offers some shocking statistics on the negative consequences of being a sitting workforce. Some of the more memorable: an average full-time employee spends 2/3 of the day sitting. 60% of us believe that we would be more productive if we had the option to work on our feet. Musculoskeletal diseases cost us more than $61.2 billion a year. A 200-pound person can burn off 276 calories in 6 hours by standing rather than sitting. In other words, Erogotron isn't just about productivity and slick furniture. They're offering a healthier way to work. The WorkFit comes with all the pieces and most of the tools you'll need for assembly, minus a Phillips screwdriver and an adjustable wrench. The core of the WorkFit is a base unit that incorporates the main support column and a tension spring for the lift. 4 large rubberized caster wheels, each with a ball-bearing swivel, are bolted into the base to provide mobility. The 2 wheels at the front of the cart include locking mechanisms that allow you to secure your WorkFit in place. The workstation riser, to which the LCD and laptop mounts will be attached, is mounted to the main column with a series of 4 bolts that lock the riser to the lift. A multi-feature user box is hung off of these same 4 bolts to give you a work surface and a keyboard mouse tray. This user box also allows you to hide your cables and adapters, running them through the riser and locking them behind 2 snap-in polycarb covers. The keyboard and mouse tray gives you easy accessibility to your UI devices and makes typing more comfortable and healthier than a fixed tray. The entire tray can tilt forward, letting you put your keyboard at a negative angle to reduce the risk of carpal tunnel syndrome, and the mouse tray slides to either the left or to the right to fit users of both-handedness. The entire assembly slides out of the way when not in use. Mounting the LCD monitor and laptop tray starts with a steel crossbar secured to the lift on the riser. An S-clamp attaches any monitor with a standard VESA mounting to the crossbar and gives you 30 degrees of tilt, 360 degrees of rotation, while also letting you slide the monitor for balance and position. The laptop platform has a similar C-clamp that allows it to attach to the crossbar and slide, letting you line up your notebook to balance the display. Additionally, a small T-bar at the front of the laptop platform allows you to adjust your notebook's position so that it can more closely line up with the LCD monitor. Both the monitor and the laptop platform are angled 30 degrees inward, letting you position your screens for best viewing. You can also flip the mountings to allow you to mount your LCD and laptop on either side of the crossbar according to your preferences. There are 2 tension adjustment controls on the WorkFit, one on the LCD arm and the other on the main column. These allow you to adjust each spring-loaded lift independently to account for different cart loadouts and user preference. Once assembled, the WorkFit changed the way that I worked in my office. Not only did it increase the amount of time that I spent standing while at work, but the mobility of the WorkFit meant that it became my go-to workstation for testing, presentations, and collaborating with colleagues. It worked perfectly with dozens of different laptop monitor combinations, and the clutter-free WorkFit is perhaps the neatest I've ever been able to keep a work area. For those who need a bit more out of their workstations, Erogotron also offers a large array of accessories for their WorkFit cart. From utility shelves that you can add to the back of the main column, to power strips and mounting kits, to baskets for easy storage, Erogotron lets you build a workstation that fits you. The Ergotron WorkFit C Mod Combo Sit-Stand Workstation is available now. We've been able to find it online for $850. There are really only three things that I dislike about the Ergotron WorkFit C. The first thing has to be this, the keyboard mouse tray. Now, most of this is fantastic. It tucks away when you're not using it. It comes out, it's sturdy, it's comfortable. It can be adjusted so that you can type the way you want to type. But the mouse tray is not the best implementation that I've seen. I mean, it's nice that it can move from one side to the other, but it's a little bit flimsy. And with the construction of the unit being so nice, I don't understand why Ergotron wouldn't go that little extra distance to give you something, well, that was a bit more substantial. The second thing would be the cable management. I love the fact that you can hide everything away in this user box underneath here. The cords, the adapters, just sort of shove them in there and only bring out the parts that you need. But that cable management doesn't continue all the way up the riser. You have this little cubby hole here, which is fantastic, but, you know, why not continue it all the way up so that you can really hide your cables and make it that much nicer looking? The third thing, well, that's a biggie. Price. At $800 to $900 per, this is definitely not cheap. But it's also not the most expensive piece of good furniture, and the Ergotron WorkFit C definitely qualifies as good furniture. It's flexible. You can mount your laptop on this side or that side. It can turn your LCD 90 degrees. You can pretty much customize it to fit the way that you work, and to top it off, it's uber geek stylish. But beyond all of that, it's the fact that Ergotron has figured out that it's no longer about just how your technology works or how it's organized, but it's about what it does to your body, the most important piece of this interface. Ergotron has given us something that we can use to better our health. It's better to stand. Sometimes it's better to sit. Sometimes it's easier to be somewhere in between. But most of all, it's better to have something that's flexible, that will work the way we need it to work, the way that our body wants it to work. And that's what we get in the WorkFit C. If the WorkFit C sounds like something for you, go ahead and stop by the Ergotron website at www.ergotron.com. There you'll be able to find all the information about their carts and their mounts and any of the other accessories for your workplace. While you're there, stop by their awareness site at www.juststand.org and you'll be able to find out what sitting all day does to your body. If that's not enough geeking out for you, drop by our website at www.thetechstop.net, where you'll be able to find out how we've used all of the Ergotron products that have come through our lab. And why not subscribe to our Twitter feed at twitter.com/PadreASJ, so you'll be able to keep up with what we've got and what's coming next. I'm Father Robert Balacer. This is Gadget. And remember, there's no Uber Geek without you.
I like my music. You know, that review was made 2 years ago, and of course the state of sit-stand technology has increased since then, but I think it's a really good example of a product that at the time was unmatched. No one had something that was that sturdy, that was that portable, and that was that flexible. You could have dual monitors, a monitor and a laptop, or a single big monitor, and it was that kind of flexibility that I think propelled Ergotron into the upper echelon of functional office, well, desks and furniture. Chibert, I want to go to you because you have used Ergotron gear in the past. What has been your experience of using the sit and stand?
Well, one of the things that's been great for me is, you know, being able to roll this around in the data center so that if I need to directly connect things into servers, you know, say from the front panel, great. If I want to be able to go and move things around and be able to sit while I'm working on stuff and have a whole bunch of parts on the floor, no problem. The flexibility has been incredible. In fact, one of the things when I was designing the video wall for my dean is I actually gave him an option of some Herman Miller furniture, and he didn't like it. He actually liked the Ergotron way better. So even, you know, the stodgy scientist likes the look of the Ergotron.
Right. Curtis, what about you? You've seen very expensive furniture in the past. I mean, that's no, well, a new thing to the enterprise world, because I think we've made the realization that spending a bit more money now on good furniture, on comfortable ergonomics, is worth it down the line. I mean, is this an issue that executives are aware of?
I think executives are increasingly aware of it. You know, I've been in the industry a long time, and back in the 80s, when we first started having people in offices sitting at computers for a long time, we really did have an awful lot of repetitive stress problems because people just weren't used to it, and because typing on a computer keyboard is an inherently different process than typing on a manual or even an electric typewriter. You use different muscles. When I talk to CIOs, most of them don't feel that they have become ergonomics experts, but I think a growing number are certainly aware of design. When I talk to designers from the major furniture companies, they indicate that they're seeing a greater awareness. So I think that what we're beginning to see are CIOs, the IT end, aware that taking care of the employee health while they use IT is part of the IT department's job, and that's a major change.
Yeah. I want to go now to our expert. I mean, we brought her in here specifically to talk about this. Wendy, when we're talking about ergonomics with Ergotron, we're going into a different field than we're used to talking about with ergonomics. Ergonomics are normally, well, your mouse and your keyboard, and we leave it at that. You've discovered, and your company has discovered, this entirely new high-impact area of concern. Tell me about sitting versus standing, what we should be doing, why we should be doing it, and, well, how you've come to realize this.
Yeah, and thank you so much for the show today. We're obviously thrilled of your interest in having your viewers explore what's happening out there when we're sitting too long. And as you showed already, we have a broad platform of WorkFit sit-stand workstations, similar to the WorkFit C. And yes, that was years ago, and the affordability has changed and the features have changed. But here's what's going on. Ergotron has been in business for near 30 years or so. The foundation of the design of our products is to maintain the science behind ergonomics. But yes, in the last several years, as the research has started to unfold about the dangers of sitting too long, we had to broaden our scope a little bit and take it beyond ergonomics to, we're really doing a disservice to the people using our products if we're forcing them to sit in front of them all day. So again, in the last several years, we sort of found, well, let me back up for a second. For over 25 years, Ergotron has been designing sit-stand workstations for the healthcare community, for the nurses who are on their feet all day, did an outlet to just sit for a few minutes while they were computing, right? To give their feet a rest, similar to what we all felt at CES last week. So a few years ago, as the research started surfacing about the dangers of sitting, we thought we need to broaden this portfolio of products into the corporate office, because not only are there implications to individual health, but to a company's bottom line and profitability, which is what we were just addressing with Curtis. So we're kind of talking about it as workspace economics, if you will. What's happening is we all feel the pain and discomfort of long periods of sitting in front of our computers and during a sedentary work routine. We've felt that pain in our shoulders, neck, and back. But what people aren't generally aware of is what's happening deep down in our body. Literally, when we start sitting, our metabolic system starts to shut down. After just 2 hours of sitting, it raises our blood sugar and decreases our blood flow. And just 2 hours of sitting drops our good cholesterol levels by 20%. So there's a lot happening after just 2 hours of sitting. So take that over the course of your day, and you can see the implications that has on our overall health. So it's no wonder that our nation is fighting an obesity epidemic, rising rates of diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and stroke. And what does that mean to the companies employing these people? There's going to be increased healthcare costs. Many of these people may be away from the office for chiropractic or other medical visits, and there's a presenteeism factor where they're actually coming into the office, but they're feeling such pain and discomfort and fatigue that they're not really productive.
Wendy, let me ask about that, because I've seen the studies that show that just sitting is a problem, and I've also seen the studies that show that just standing is a problem. And so
Right.
where do you strike that balance? What's the guiding principle on how much time you should be sitting and how much time you should be standing over, say, an 8 or 10-hour workday?
Well, I hate to sound so cliche, but it really is as simple as listening to your body. When you're feeling discomfort or fatigue in one position, swap positions. So if you're standing, sit. If you're sitting, stand. All ergonomists say the best posture is the next posture. So it's really that act of moving between a seated and standing position that is increasing calorie burn, increasing your metabolic rates, and increasing your blood flow. There really is no magic number because we're all designed differently. So it's really what our body can tolerate. What we hope people will get to is to standing half their day and sitting half their day, if their bodies can accommodate that.
All right. I want to throw this back to our journalists, Curtis and Schubert. I believe this. I mean, I've actually seen a bit of a benefit from standing just in circulation in my legs, even though it hasn't helped with my weight at all. But going back to you, these are bits of information that we've kind of seen floating around the enterprise for a while. I think most people understand that they need to be in a comfortable position. I think this is why people are willing to spend $1,000, $2,000 on a really nice chair. But it's that you can't get people over that next hump to actually get them to stand. Why is that? Schubert, you've been using an Ergotron stand for a while. I don't know if you're like me, but I have to force myself to actually get up and use it properly.
I don't know. It depends on the situation. When I'm working on an electronic workbench, I'll actually tend to stand because it's a taller structure, and having a sit-stand able to roll over to the bench and be able to work is pretty nice. No, but yeah, I agree with you. I tend to sit most of the day, but every once in a while my back starts giving me a problem, so I'll start thinking about standing up and doing some work.
Right. Now, I want to give an example here. The entire Twyat set is actually an Ergotron desk. So here I am. This whole desk can be in a seated position. So if I follow it down, this is typically where people would be sitting at their desk, but I can also raise it all the way up. So no matter how tall I am, I can actually have my laptop where it's supposed to be. This is a great feature, and yet, even though we've got this, I still use this chair. Wendy, I want to throw this back to you. How do you break people out of their bad habits? I mean, we've been doing this for so long, and we know it's bad for us. I think everyone out there, everyone in the chat room knows that sitting in front of your computer for 8 hours, it can't possibly be good for you, but we're not willing to make this next step into getting up, to moving around, getting comfortable.
Well, it's not natural, right? And you addressed it in your WorkFit C review, is for years and years and years, people have had to adapt to their workspace. And thankfully, Ergotron is designing a number of products that allow the workspace to adapt to the individual. So switching between a seated and standing position is not inherently natural for us because we've been forced to sit for so long. The AHA says that sedentary jobs have increased 83% since 1950. So it's really about retraining our brain. You mentioned juststand.org. It's about getting educated on the dangers we're putting ourselves into by sitting too long, and simple tips on ways to break sedentary work routines above and beyond your sit-stand workstations. While you're standing, or remind yourself to stand while you're talking on the phone. Walk over and talk to a colleague rather than Skype them from your desk. Between our cars, our computers, and our communication platforms, Skype, Facebook, Twitter, we virtually never have to get out of our chairs. So it's really important that we get ourselves educated on what's happening and remind ourselves. For instance, what I do is every hour on the hour, I stand for 10 minutes at a time. So I've worked myself towards, standing virtually half my day that way. Some people leave their workstation in the standing position as they leave work at night. So when they come in that morning, they're already engaged in the standing position. So it's just retraining our brain to remind us that we have that healthy option to stand while we're working now.
Curtis, well, first I want to show off. This is me on my tiptoes position. This is also known as the Jason Howell sitting height. But, let's take a piece of technology like this. This is actually a really nice desk. Again, this is made by Ergotron. We believe in it. We use it. what would we have to do to be able to convince an executive that he should shell out between, $600 to $1,000 per employee to make them have a desk like this? And again, we can go to the Erogotron website, and there's a bunch of attachments you can put onto this to make it very, very functional, very, very cool. But as people in the chat room are pointing out, this seems to be a big expense. And we may understand that in the long run, it's inexpensive, but it seems like a lot to ask of a purchasing department.
Well, Padre, that's the thing. When you look at the prices on the Erogotron website, compared to most office furniture, it's really not that expensive. We're not asking the company to spend 10 times more than they would spend on the average desk on one of these. But I think that for most companies, what they really are going to need is a pilot project. The real issue for most companies is productivity. So what they're going to need to know is that by giving an employee one of these desks, that it's not going to make them less productive. In other words, they're not going to spend a lot of time just moving it up and down and not doing their work. That it's not going to go to waste, that they're not going to lock it down in the standard seating position and never move it, and ideally that it will make a difference in their long-term health. Now, that third one is the hardest to quantify. So I think the key is some sort of pilot project that convinces them that the first two will work out, that employees won't waste time with it, and that they won't waste the product, that they'll use it the way it's intended to be used. Now, I have to admit, I'm a big fan of working while standing up. Years ago, I started mounting my typewriter on the top of a filing cabinet. And today, my desk is not one of the high-tech Ergotron units, I'm afraid. I really need to talk to them about that. But I do have probably a 100-year-old post office sorting desk that was designed to be used while standing up. I divide my time between standing up and sitting on a drafting stool while I'm here at the desk. Chibert could tell you I've got my computer and my monitors sitting on boxes of various heights. It's a low-tech approach, but it does let me spend my time split between sitting down and standing up while I'm working.
Several of our participants in the chat room are pointing out that good furniture is actually really expensive. Someone mentioned that they just put in a $25,000 office setup. People are mentioning that they have, custom-made wraparound desks that yet cost a pretty penny. And so if you look at it like that, then this doesn't seem all that expensive, and yet we're still not willing to make that jump. Wendy, I want to throw Curtis's points to you. What kind of hard data can you give, say, a CTO or CIO or just an office manager who's watching this program right now who is considering purchasing furniture, either from Erogotron or anywhere else that can give you that sit-stand mobility? What data would you give them to try to convince them to make the leap?
Well, you've talked about ergonomic chairs already, and the fact that they can be, sometimes upwards of $1,000 to $3,000 to provide superior ergonomics. There's a lot of comparative data out there that talks about, for instance, I work with a lot of people who have been considering treadmill desks or electric style sit-stand adjustable workstations. But those, for one, can be extremely expensive, upwards of $1,200 or more. And for the treadmill desks, you have to have space to accommodate them, right? And for the electric desks, they can be extremely expensive. And some of the criticism I've heard is it can take an average of 32 seconds a position between seated and standing. So if you take that over the course of 8 hours in a day, that's a significant chunk out of one's activity. As far as the ROI, there is a significant amount of, and you can find this on juststand.org as well. That's the increased focus and energy one gets by the simple act of standing. So again, that's something that we want to share with the executives. As Curtis already alluded to, what they're concerned about is ROI, return on their investment, and also now in the wellness realm of things, the industry data suggests that an effective wellness program offering is going to cost a company anywhere between $300 and $600. So our definitely fall within that realm, but also it allows the company to engage the employee in that wellness offering. For instance, smoking cessation and discounts on gym memberships are common wellness employee offerings. But companies are challenged in getting their employees because they're not smokers, or maybe because they don't have the financial for them beyond the discounted membership. So let's engage that employee by putting the wellness offering at the place where they time the most, and that's the workspace.
Okay. Now, you were breaking up a lot there, but let me summarize it. Basically, what you're trying to tell employers is you're going to spend the money somewhere. You're going to be using that wellness money either in the preventative or on the treatment side. So why not put it into something that you can invest for this employee, for the next employee, and the employee after that? Chibert, I'm going to risk throwing it to you because right now you look 4-bit. But you know, when we're talking about wellness, and talking, I'm specifically speaking of a large environment like a campus where you have many different users, many different types of users, and many different applications. Can there be a unified policy on this is how we're going to work, this is how we suggest you spend your day, these are the best practices for going through an academic / worker type of environment?
At the University of Hawaii, I seriously doubt it. Now, on a side note, though, when I was at the computer science department here at the University of Hawaii, I was faced with having to accommodate, wanting to accommodate some students in wheelchairs. And I actually took a really hard look at all kinds of different desks, including the ones that were specifically designed for ADA applications, and found them very inflexible. And then I ran across Erogotron, and I actually bought a desk, a smaller version of the desk that you're using for the Twilight Sky desk. And it's actually got springs so that the keyboard tray can go up and down, the desktop can go up and down. So the kids in the wheelchair actually like them better because they're quite a bit more flexible. They could adjust exactly how they want. They could raise it up really high, keyboard tray really high, roll under it, and then drop the tray right down onto the handles of the wheelchair. And they felt that was considerably more comfortable than the traditional ADA desk that typically UH has been buying.
Nice. Okay. Curtis, I want to bring this home with you. So when we start looking at ergonomics in the workplace, when we specifically start talking about using these sit-stand desks, again, from Ergotron or anywhere else, what would be your words of advice? So we've heard that you should put money into preventative maintenance, into wellness programs. Is this something that should just be considered by large enterprises? Is this something that should be considered by small businesses, home offices? Where is the state of wellness in ergonomics in computing?
I think if you were looking for one word to describe the state of ergonomics in computing, that word would be evolving. For some of us, it's been an important issue for a long time. I remember when I first started working from a home office roughly 20 years ago, one of the first things I did was go out and buy a really good office chair. I still have a really good office chair sitting at another desk. I've got one of those really expensive mesh-backed chairs that has done a great job for me. And when you ask if this is only a large enterprise thing, the answer is no. The reason that smaller organizations should pay particular attention to ergonomic issues is because the individual employees are more important to the smaller organizations, and smaller organizations are less able to spread the cost of lost hours and rehabilitation over a large number of employees. That makes it more expensive to fix whatever goes wrong with any individual employee. This is something that is critical, and frankly, if you're working at home, then it's even more critical. If you are a freelancer, if you're an independent consultant, if you are the person responsible for your time and your expenses, then you are least able of any organization out there to handle the cost of downtime and rehab. So ergonomics matter. They matter more than we think. And it's time that all organizations paid attention to keeping the employees helpful. It's the most effective way to spend the money that, as we've heard several times, you're going to end up spending one way or another.
Wendy, you do get the last word. So what would you like to tell our audience about sitting, standing? What would you like to tell them about how they should be considering this dynamic in their workplace?
Well, it's as simple as this. There are cost implications to every company by forcing employees to sit while they work all day. That is, again, to the employees' overall health and well-being and their mental focus and energy, and how that contributes to the company's performance and profitability. So it's really important that companies understand that they need to be breaking up employee sedentary work routines for the health not only of that employee, but for the company itself. And there are many, many ways to do that, as we've been discussing this afternoon. You know, Erogotron's line of WorkFit sit-stand workstations are an affordable way to engage the employee and keep them healthy. But there are other ways. Again, it's creating a culture of movement. Have stand, and I think, was it Curtis alluded to this earlier, or maybe Brian, but how do you get a company or an employee to feel not so awkward about standing while they're working? It's the company's culture of movement. So have standing meetings. Reduce the number of chairs you have for employee meetings. Have walking meetings. You know, at our company, you will often see people, you know, in a meeting with badges around their neck that says that they are currently in a walking meeting right now. So there are many, many ways to really influence more standing at work because of the health benefits, the increased calorie burn, increased metabolic rates, increased blood flow, all of those healthy benefits of standing more.
Wendy, thank you very much for being a special guest, and thank you for
Thank you.
talking about something that I've held near and dear, because maybe I shouldn't say this, but I had some horrible back problems about 5 years ago, and I actually started using Erogotron products and doing the sitting and the standing. And even though I don't do it enough, I've done it enough that that those problems have basically gone away. So I know it works. That's just me. Well,
and we love hearing that.
Yes, yeah. Well, you've done it again. You've used up another hour listening to Twiat This Week in Enterprise Tech. But, you know, we don't want to send you away empty-handed. Did you know that you could download this episode? Did you know that you could download this episode in multiple formats? Did you know that you could watch this episode from everything from Justin TV to Ustream to, well, twit.tv? Yes, right now, if you go to our website at twit.tv/Twiat, you can find all the different ways that you can get Twiat downloaded directly into your device. Have an iPhone? Sure. Have an Android device? Yeah. Have a Zune? I don't know why, but yeah, we even do that. You can have Twiat and all its Twiat goodness given to you in either audio or video, high-definition video form each and every single week. Never miss any of the Uber Geek goodness. Also, if you go to YouTube, you can find our brand spanking new YouTube page at youtube.com/Twiat. It's just been created this last week. We're going to start uploading our episodes. Not only that, we're going to try to engage you far more. So when you write a comment on a video, I'm going to get back to you as soon as I possibly can. We're even going to try to have some Google Hangouts so that we have something to hold you over in the enterprise space from week to week to week. Also, if you are watching or listening to this on a download, did you know that we actually do the show live? That's right. Every Monday at noon Pacific, we come here to live.twit.tv and we jump on the chat room at irc.twit.tv so we can, well, talk to you. If you feel like you have a question that needs to be answered, if you feel like you want to be part of the temporary community experience and the experiment that is Twit TV, please stop on by. Finally, why don't you go ahead and subscribe to me on Twitter at twitter.com/PadreSJ. You'll be able to talk about the episodes. You'll be able to suggest topics for new episodes and maybe even go a little crazy by following the digital Jesuit on his way around the world. Finally, I want to thank everyone who makes this possible, especially Jason Howell. He's my super TD who had to deal with a lot of internet problems today, my producer Karsten, and of course my fantastic panel. Let's start with you, Brian. What do you want our audience to know about?
Actually, everybody's been asking me about VDI, especially Remote FX and so forth, and I finally have my new i7-based server. So I'm hoping to be able to start publishing a lot of hands-on Remote FX stories, also the multi-point server from Microsoft, and I'm also going to be doing some stuff on client Hyper-V under Windows 8.
Good. We'll keep an eye out for that. Curtis, what's going on in enterprise efficiency?
Well, we're doing all of our normal enterprise stuff, but the key that I want to talk about is that I have a rhino head. And this rhino head has come to live with me. It's going to go up on the wall, but I have a problem. I don't know my rhino's name. What I'm hoping is that the folks from Twyat and the E2 community will help me discover that name. So if you've got an idea about what the rhino's name is, then please let me know either via Twitter, that's at KG4GWA, or within the next day or so, there will be a discussion starting over at Enterprise Efficiency, and we'd love to have you taking part in that. If I end up using your suggestion, if you correctly guess the rhino's name, you'll get a shout out on the air as well as a special thank you from me. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, the very first ever on the internet Name My Rhino competition. Wendy, my special guest, let's go to you. Of course, juststand.org, but what do you want to leave our audience with?
I just simply can't top that. Thanks, Curtis. Here's what I really want everybody to walk away with. It's very simple. Sit less, stand more, start now. Get educated and join our Uprising at juststand.org. Also, you can follow us on at JustStandNews on Twitter as well.
Well, that's it. We're going to leave you, but before you go, just remember, if you ever want to know what's going on in the enterprise, just keep quiet.